So I've had some requests that I speak from up here because in the back it's hard to see me. I'm a little vertically challenged. So we'll see how this goes, but we want your feedback because I don't want to respond just to one or two people. But if a lot of you would prefer that I stand up here, I see some thumbs up already, then I'll do it. My personal bias is down there because I feel more connected with you. I don't have this barrier between us. But I'm willing to flex, right? Because that's what we do in Unity. So, have you ever wondered what is behind what you are experiencing with the five senses? What's behind what you are seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling? You know, have you ever wondered what might be back there? Have you ever considered going back there, right? No, Molly's shaking her head. Okay. All right.
There's a dragon sea on that point.
So, the human condition that today's message addresses is that idea of not realizing, therefore not seeing behind appearances. And the spiritual solution is realizing and seeing beyond appearances. So let's affirm what we know is beyond appearances. And I'll say it once and then invite you to say it twice with me. I am free, unlimited spirit, whole and well. Together, I am free, unlimited spirit, whole and well. I am free, unlimited spirit, whole and well. So that wholeness, that wellness, that free, unlimited spirit is what is behind the appearances, because we can get so caught up in this material world and think that what we see is what is. So we know that love is an infinite force. It's an infinite energy. And it's an energy and a force for good. And it's an energy force for healing. So to understand it in its fullness requires unconventional perception, new ways of seeing and believing. Unconventional perception. Some of us here have worked with a teacher named Jake Eagle. And Jake Eagle talks about percept, our percept screen, that we all have this screen through which we see the world. And that screen is comes about because of everything in our DNA, everything in our experience, everything that's ever happened to us. We see the world through that screen. It affects our perception. And that's just the way it is. But by being aware of it, we can support ourselves in getting beyond that screen. So, because in that we filter all of what we think is reality through that screen. And we call reality anything that we can see, hear, touch, smell, or feel. That's what we think is real, don't we? This is real. Love? Is love real? Well, we know love is real, but we can't see it, right? But we see love behind the actions, our actions and other people's actions. We see these invisible things through actions. So there was two men, Martin and Inge Goldstein. Maybe Inge's a woman. So this couple, and they wrote a book on the scientific method called How We Know. And Pierre quotes them in this part of the book that we're studying this week. It is apparent that sight, the sense we think of most directly putting us in touch with facts, is learned rather than automatic. We see with our minds, not with our eyes. and we are subject to whatever unconscious biases and misconceptions, our percept screen, are produced by the training that teaches us to see. Things need not be what they seem. Changes in our thinking may change what we see. Changes in our thinking may change what we see. Deepak Chopra says that the sensation and substance of the world surrounding us is a form of socially programmed hypnotism or mesmerism, a convenient fiction of which we are all prisoners. Now in Unity, our co-founder Charles Fillmore called it race consciousness, the consciousness of the human race. And that's what we see things through. Quantum physics points out that we live in a universe based on energy. Okay? We live in a universe based on energy. And scientists, including physicists, neurologists, psychosomatic medicine doctors, and environmental sciences suggest that energy, thought, consciousness may well constitute the ultimate texture or substance of the universe, okay? So that energy, thought, consciousness may constitute the ultimate texture or structure of the universe. So in Unity, we use the word substance a lot. And we talk about the fact that substance is that invisible energy, if you want to call it that underlies, that stands under, substance, stands under everything that is. And so it's constant, it's unchanging, it's permanent, yet it's intangible. And it includes ideas, thoughts, blessings, okay? And Unity teaches that divine substance is our supply. Out of the substance, out of invisible substance, we form whatever we will according to our faith and understanding. And that's a lot of responsibility that a lot of us don't want to take sometimes, right? That we are responsible, that we use this substance, this invisible, powerful energy to form whatever shows up in our lives. And that's not to be confused with metaphysical abuse, where someone says to you, what in your consciousness attracted that to you? We don't do that in Unity. The way I interpret it is that my soul knows exactly what I need this lifetime to help me to grow, to be all I can be. And so that it is my soul that calls forth these situations in my life. So, out of substance, we form whatever it is we want. So when I was building my house, some of you have heard the story, when I was building my house 15 years ago, I had a dream. And in that dream, I was picking up invisible blocks. I would bend over, pick up an invisible block, and put it on the foundation, and it would become solid. I consider that a really mystical dream, trying to help me understand this idea of taking substance and transforming it into materiality. So mystics throughout the ages have written about and told stories about their mystical experiences. And they've all said in different words that they experienced an infinite spiritual harmony. Infinite spiritual harmony behind the mask of material experiences and material things. And Brendalyn says we might simply call this, and he uses the word transmaterial perception. Transmaterial perception. Perception that pierces the veil of the hypnotic screen of matter. I like that. Perception that pierces the screen that appears solid and real. And blessing is one of the ways we pierce that screen. Blessing is a way that we see beyond appearances. I call it beholding the Christ behind the veil of the sacred human. Sometimes I use stronger words than that. But to really be able to pierce through that screen of the appearance of this person or the situation, to see and behold the oneness and the love and the divinity of either that person or the situation. So there's a lot of stories in the Bible of Jesus healing. And I believe that this is the way Jesus healed, because he would see beyond the appearances, to the wholeness of the person, to their spiritual wholeness. You see, our spirit has never taken a pill, has never been cut by a surgeon's knife, has never been angry, has never been upset. None of that. Our spirit is absolutely whole and pure. And that's what Jesus saw. And he would see that beyond the physical disease, the mental illness, whatever appeared to everybody else. He would see beyond that, and he would call it forth. And that, to me, is what we are doing when we bless a situation. We are looking beyond what appears to be. And we are calling forth, like if it's an individual that we feel is out of integrity, we are calling forth, we are seeing the integrity of their wholeness. And we are believing in that, we are beholding that, and we are giving thanks for it, blessing it, sending it love. So when we bless, we are affirming the good. We're affirming the good that is not only within us, we are affirming the good that is within everything that is. Everything that is. According to the Copenhagen School of Physics, there is no real world independent of the observer. It's part of quantum physics. There's no real, in other words, one of the examples he uses in the book is, you know, is the moon's not there if nobody's looking at it. It's like, oh, you know, that's just too hard to wrap my head around. But visionaries, poets, and seers of all times claim that there exists an omnipresent beauty hidden to material eyes. And as we learn to bless despite appearances, we will slowly become more and more aware of this reality. For we see with our thoughts before seeing with our eyes. What would that be like? To see with our thoughts before seeing with our eyes. So the world is really, or reality is all consciousness. We create our reality by the way we perceive things. As we learn to bless despite appearances, we will slowly become more and more aware of this other reality, for we see with our thoughts before seeing with our eyes. So, Byron Katie, how many of you know the work of Byron Katie? She says, when the mind believes what it thinks, when the mind believes what it thinks, it names what cannot be named and tries to make it real through a name. It believes that its names are real, and there's a world out there separate from itself. That's an illusion. The whole world is projected. When you're shut down and frightened, she says, the world seems hostile. When you love what is, everything in the world becomes the beloved. everything in the world becomes the beloved. Inside and outside always match. The world is the mirror image of your own mind. Again, that's a lot of responsibility. And sometimes we don't want that. We want to think we're victims or whatever, but we're not. So some of you have heard of Dr. Hugh Lin, who was a psychiatrist. I know, I see our dear Kathy Valentine back there, who teaches Ho'oponopono. And so I want to tell you how this is what Ho'opono is all about. Dr. Hugh Lin was a psychiatrist in the State Mental Hospital in Hawaii, and he didn't do things the way his predecessors had done them. And what he did is he did not review the patient's files. He instead focused on healing them by healing himself. And he used self-identity through Ho'oponopono. So if we believe, as science has found, that we create our own reality, then there is no such thing as out there, okay? Everything happening to you right now, in every moment, is happening in your mind. Everything that's happening to me is happening to me in my mind. Everything you see, everything you hear, every person you meet is not out there. These things and these people are happening in our own mind and are therefore colored by our perceptions, our beliefs, and our fears. Okay? So, self-identity through Ho'opono is 4 steps. The 4 steps are, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And I want to say a little bit about those steps. I'm sorry. You're not saying I'm sorry to this person or this situation or whatever. What you're saying is, I'm sorry because I know that whatever I'm seeing is happening in my own mind. Okay? I feel remorse that I have this in my mind, that I am seeing it the way I am seeing it. So we are apologizing to ourselves and to all creation for having this in our minds, okay? Please forgive me. We are not asking that person or God or whatever. We're asking forgiveness of ourselves and I have had all creation. Thank you. We're thanking ourselves and all creation for this recognition, for realizing this. And I love you, we're saying to ourselves and to all creation. But we gotta mean it, right? I love you. I love you. So Ho'oponopono is a wonderful way to bless people, because when we bless ourselves, we are blessing others. In Unity, we like to say, I am not my brother's keeper, I am my brother. So as we bless another, we are blessing ourselves. You know, this past week, our dear Jerry Shoger, how many of you know who Jerry is? All I have to do is go like this and you know who Jerry is. Okay. And Jerry's been living with me for a couple of months. And it started out by her pet sitting for me while I went on sabbatical. And by the way, she absolutely would not let me pay her. And I tried several different ways, and she actually got pretty upset with me that I wouldn't just accept the gift of her taking care of my pets. Well, she, in the mornings, she walks the slow ones. She walks Macondo, my miniature poodle, and her miniature schnauzer, Rags. And then I walk Paloma, who goes with the wind, you know? So on Wednesday morning, she was walking, she was almost back, and you have to understand, these 2 dogs that she walks are really slow until you turn around to head home. And they know she's got them trained. They're going to be fed as soon as they get home. They start springing. I mean, Macondo literally bounces home, and Rags bounces home. And anyway, she tripped, and she fell, and she broke her hip. And so My cell ringer was off. She called me 6 times and couldn't get through. It's a lesson for a minister. You leave your cell phone on. And she called our neighbor. His ringer was off. But our other neighbor was going to take his kids to school, and there's Jerry laying in the middle of the street. So thank you, Will. So Will grabbed the dogs and threw them onto my front portal and got Chris. And then Chris came over and banged on my door. So that we're running out there, and Chris and I are barefooted. It was cold Wednesday morning. I didn't notice. We were barefooted. And she started telling us we needed to go get some shoes on. The woman is amazing. She was in good spirits, even as she was laying there in a lot of pain, and more concerned about us than she was about herself. Anyway, we got her to the hospital. She had surgery Thursday morning and was, you know, she's just in great spirits. I don't know what to say. She is a model for how to go through difficult times with a good attitude. And so I'm going to be caretaking her when she gets out of the hospital. And I said to her, you know, Jerry, I tried to pay you to take care of her. The next time, let me write the damn check. Anyway, it will be an honor. The nurses station, they all just, the one nurse, when I was in there Friday, said, I wish I could just stay in this room all day. Because that's how cheerful and what a blessing our dear Jerry is. So I know I will be blessed, far more than I bless her, by having the privilege, the honor to take care of someone. It reminds me when I took care of my mother, and it healed everything that was between us, everything we had never resolved, because I had no choice but to love her. I couldn't demand anything from her in return. I just loved her. I just blessed her. And taking care of her prepared me for ministry. So I look forward, and I know it won't be easy, but I look forward, and I know all of you will be out there to support us both as we take care of Jerry when she comes home. Now, the thing I meant to say, I didn't mean to go on that long story, was ever since Jerry fell, my right hip is hurting. And I keep telling it, look, you're just being sympathetic to Jerry, but it's not going away. For whatever reason, my right hip is really uncomfortable. But I just consider it part of the mystery that that's going on. And it reminds me of codependency. You know you're codependent if you have a near-death experience and someone else's life flashes before you. That's how you know you're codependent. And maybe some kind of codependency going on. You know, during the 50s and 60s on Broadway, there were lots of musicals and great musicians with great talent. And an interviewer once asked Mary Martin how it was that she seemed, of all the stars on Broadway, to be the most beloved by her audiences. And she thought for a moment and she said, well, right before I go out to perform, I peek through the curtain and say to the audience with all my heart, I love you, I love you, I love you. Wow. So even though she blessed them beyond their earshot, they obviously felt that love, and they loved her in return. So how do we do this? How do we do this? We know it's always prayer and meditation, and the prayer that I recommend for you is Ho'oponopono. And if you don't know about Ho'oponopono, then you see Kathy, and the next time she teaches a class. But there's lots of information about it on the internet. And in Hawaii, we pronounce all vowels. All vowels are. So it's really very easy. It's Ho'o, Pono, Pono, okay? People think it's such a hard word, but it's really very easy. Ho'oponopono. And that is to go within and to say, you know, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. thank you. I love you. And we'll do that during the meditation today. And the other thing is to bless everyone, everywhere, no matter what. To see their wholeness beyond the outer appearance. Remembering that each and every one of us are inherently good, regardless of how we're acting. That no one is undeserving of our love. That behind our five senses are states of consciousness that transform our perception of what we call reality. That love is a form of blessing, and it is a healing force. And love as a form of blessing opens us to the reality that is beyond what we see. So I celebrate that each one of us goes forth from this sanctuary today ready to see what lies behind what we perceive through the five senses. And let's begin doing that right now in a sacred time of shared prayer. So I invite us to just take a moment to relax, to rest, to allow each breath to find its own rhythm and pace. Allowing it to relax the body, clear the mind, and open the heart. Even a modest grasp of the spiritual perfection underlying the universe can result in transformed emotions and physical healings. Blessing yourself, others, and situations is seeing beyond appearances to the hidden perfection, no matter how challenging the object of your blessing may be. So I invite you to allow to come to mind a challenging situation or person in your life. And now I invite you to bless them using Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that everything out there is happening in my own mind. I feel remorse that I have this in my mind. So I apologize to myself and to all creation. For being in a lower state of consciousness regarding this issue, this person. I am sorry. God has such a great sense of humor. Please forgive me. You're never going to forget this one. Please forgive me. And I ask this of myself. Please forgive me for being in this lower state of consciousness. I ask this of myself, I ask it of all creation. Thank you thank myself and all creation for this remorse and for this forgiveness. I love you. I love myself. I love all creation. And I mean it. I love you. I love you. I love you. So I invite you to bless yourself, saying, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. In the silence. As we gently bring our attention back to this time and place, silently say, Divine Love, thank you for the wisdom, the courage to see beyond appearances and to bless myself and others without ceasing. Thank you, Divine Love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That it is so, that I am so, and so it is. Amen.